Isa nimbola binakabali na nomni bakrarangumai and Talanoa and kabinaka nikua sa uchungona walu and tinkona miniti babini binaka bikimni na nomni rangota na kavi molmalumu ngola sa kachukmai berto na tambana ni MV Solar Limited erto sema chukungo melo toka ngol sa chukana bakambula bikimni na barong kumain na city kami kamida men na city ni suka melo toka nakbali na nom ni bakarong mai na bitala no binaka ni kuha me bakangar kini bakarao and dona no da sere me tek butaka na no da bitala no oni taka ni na marutaka na serengo bikima menando tu ya yani buku bikim nin sabandin diletaka ni dole bunangoni kemem do bakana nan teni viti ngona sere membaleti viti au clan ni rona talitaka na serengo Mr. Valentine and Mr. Vatu, hope you'll enjoy this song. Let me make sure I get the right link. Hold on. Okay, so that's the song. Okay. Right. Nimbula Binaka, welcome once again to this very special Talanoa. Bring a pen and a paper and take notes. Tonight, we will be learning a lot about solar power and very important information that we all need to know. Nakapakaliw and enjoy this song. Nasere na Wanuan the morning. Okay, so rong pinakadila na si Roya, ngol chikana ngona bakampule be kemni ke sara na sema tiko maina kabina ni ko bakampule tiko bertona bubale ne umilutu ndombule binaka bubale na mbose wanga bubale na Ogden mai Dubai. Welcome to the program. To those of you listening from the very many parts of the world, from Europe, from Australia, New Zealand, and here in the United States, but also those who are connecting in from the Middle East as well as in Asia. Thank you for always supporting this program. This program is for all of us. It's a platform for sharing information, sharing the different companies and the work that they do in Fiji. We know that it's going to benefit us. And so one example of that is right here tonight. As you can see, though, some of you who saw the poster, it was from my colleague who used to live in Samoa, Petero Vatu, and is now returned home. And he's now working with Mr. Michael Valantine, who are now looking or working for his company that is focused in solar. Solar products, solar power. And I know many of us have been asking questions, about, power and electricity and things like that, which I think it's really important for those of us in Fiji and those of us in the Pacific. So this is a time for us to listen to the experts. So I would like to greet them. They're both connecting in from the beautiful city of Lautoka. Bulabinaka, Mr. Valentine, and Bulabinaka, Mr. Vatu.
Bulabinaka, everybody.
Bulabinaka, Dr. T.
Vinaka for joining me tonight. If you could be able to briefly introduce yourselves, just your name and your family and where you're both originally from.
Well, I'm Michael Valentine. I'm the Managing Director of NV Solar Australia and also NV Solar Fiji Limited. I was born in Sydney, Australia, but I'm now living in a place 3.5 hours northwest of Sydney in a place called Denman. I find the country lifestyle a bit better, and I find that we can connect with the people better. So that's why I've got a big affinity with Fiji.
Mr. Valentine, Mr. Vatu.
Michael. My name is Petero Vatu, originally from Nawaindo in Bua, born and raised in the village, before moving over to Suva to finish high school and university, and accountant by profession for the last 20 years. Now my first time to shift career path into something new, running and managing MV Solar. And been with the company since I returned from Samoa on 1st of May this year. It's already like I've done 1 year already. Exciting journey with the company.
Mr. Valentine, the last time our paths crossed with Mr. Vatu was through the program of his province. So we were very blessed to have him. He was our guest when we were doing a program on my Talanoa show that focused on all the 14 provinces in Fiji. So he's from the beautiful province of Mbua. In the north of Fiji, and we were all very blessed to hear his story, his journey, and it's just amazing that from his business background and the work that he was doing in Samoa, I was pretty excited to hear that he's gone back home. And I messaged him and wondered what he was doing back home, and he was excited to share about your business. So maybe before I start the questions in our Q&A with you, Michael, I want to go back to you, Mr. Vatu, talking about career change. Career change. And I think many of us who are listening in tonight, many of us would maybe in a very traditional way, the way we think, if you're a teacher, for 30 years, you'll stick to the teaching profession until you retire, and the same applies for any profession. But, for you to change profession, how easy was it for you, or how difficult was that decision, Mr. Vatu?
Dr. T. I always looking for challenge and the opportunity with NV Solar, given that the language nowadays is all about climate change. And I believe in Michael and NV Solar's philosophy. Renewable is going to be the future. Fiji is the right place to be in. The Pacific is the right place to be in. And moving into this direction, and with NV Solar's vision and values, that's what's challenged me. And also using the experience for the last 20 years, into the transformation from looking at the numbers now into more manage those numbers and help NV Solar achieve its vision and goal here in Fiji and the Pacific.
That's a really good summary, I would say, and I think you've taught us a lesson that, you know, shifting gears and moving and changing career it's okay. Yeah, like as you said, 20 years of working in the field of accountancy, but you can still apply it maybe in a new environment. But now you can be exposed to lots of other interesting things. So we're looking forward to this Talanoa, to you both, Mr. Vatu and Mr. Valentine. Vinakavakalevu for both of you for coming in tonight, and we have such a good audience listening in. For those of you who are watching, if you have questions, please post them on the chat, and I'll be happy to share your questions with our two guests tonight. So to you, Mr. Valentine, what motivated you? What was the main reason you moved into the solar energy field of work?
That's thank you, Dr. T. That's a very good question. I did electronic engineering many years ago. I won't go through my life history, but through a number of different careers, I found myself teaching at TAFE in New South Wales, at a place called Meadowbank TAFE in Sydney, and teaching electrical, teaching electronics, teaching industrial electronics, electrotechnology in the main. But I always had a fascination for a part of the curriculum that talked about renewable energy. It was a very small part, almost insignificant, but having devices that can produce power by sitting there in the sun and doing nothing else. So I had a fascination with it. Cutting a long story short, I finished up with the students. We actually built a solar car to compete in the World Solar Challenge. This was back in 1993, when solar really wasn't a thing worldwide at all. It was the very second solar challenge, and it was a race from Darwin in Australia, top of Australia, to Adelaide, down at the bottom. And we spent $40,000 to $45,000 with a lot of help and support from, the students, their parents, a lot of people in the community. We built a car that could travel at 23 kilometres an hour. Honda built a car of $2 million and it could travel at 90 kilometres an hour. So anyway, we finished up not getting all the way to Adelaide. We got about halfway, but it was a real eye-opener for me. It was an eye-opener for the team. So anyway, cut a long story from that, I helped develop the first renewable energy course in TAFE New South Wales and wanted to encourage training in this area. Before it was an industry, really people were on off-grid systems doing solar. There was no grid-connected systems. It was really new in the world, but things changed. And then suddenly governments put a lot of money behind it, especially in Australia and Germany. A lot of incentives to go renewable. And I can understand them doing it at the time because renewable industry was so tiny that it was a great thing politically to announce these changes, but really it wasn't going to cost them very much or what they thought. But at the same time, they didn't realise that China was spending billions and billions of dollars building manufacturing plants for solar generation and solar panels. Suddenly there was this perfect storm, at least in Australia, where there was huge government rebates and the cost of solar panels reduced, to a third of the cost they were in like 3 years. Suddenly we had this solar revolution that was taking over. And Australia really embraced that, and probably one of the biggest in the world as far as uptake, especially per head of population. I still maintain teaching at TAFE and trying to promote people to do that. But in the long run, what happened was there wasn't enough trained people in the world. In Australia, back then, probably 15 years ago, there was only probably 50 people in all of Australia that actually had qualifications. So there was a lot of demand for my services outside. So I started off as a part-time business from my dining room table at home to growing MV Solar Australia, to actually installing the largest off-grid system in Australia in 2010, which was in a resort in Australia. Cut a long story short, there's a lot of, most of my business actually comes from word of mouth, believe it or not. Rather than promoting our business through advertising, my belief is you do the very best thing you can for your customer, for people that want these things. You use the best technology they can do for their situation, not just try to promote your own product. And through that, hopefully they'll tell 10 people. And that's how it grew. And so from that installation, the fellow there actually owned a company called Food Equipment Distributors that had salespeople all over Australia, in New Zealand and Fiji. And from that, that's the connection to Fiji. One of their salesmen said, oh, look, they want to know about solar. I went over there, and that's pretty much the catalyst to where MV Solar Fiji started. And that was back in 2000. And I was coming here from 2012, and we finished up opening the doors in 2014. And I suppose the rest is history, because we've now built this place up here. And what I did was went in with the bank, and we actually bought an office and warehouse and workshop. Rather than leasing something, I thought, well, if I'm going to come here, I want to show a commitment to the community. I want to show that we're here to stay. Because if I just leased the premises and brought some equipment over, I could just as easily walk out the door. But now that I'm committed here, I'm a resident here in Fiji, as well as Australia. And my brief is to try and build this business here in Fiji, as well as globally around the world. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get that big, but at least in my little way, trying to create a real difference for people that really need it.
Absolutely. Wow, Mr. Valentine. We welcome you to Fiji, and I'm sure your family, enjoy visiting Fiji. And for thinking of us, because many of our people who are listening in tonight, we learn a lot from the work you've done. And we really appreciate that Mr. Vatu is sitting right there next to you, being, he's now one of the managers there. So Mr. Vatu, what, motivated you as well, or what attracted you to MV Solar?
Dr. T, brought up in the village, and you studied through kerosene light, and then generator only go on for 2 hours from 6 to 8 o'clock. After you go to sleep, and then as years go by, and also solar companies come in through the rural electrification program. Some of them only last for 2 years. As soon as one cyclone come in, either wipe out the system or there's some fault, and the village don't know where to tend to. So with MV Solar and Michael's philosophy in helping the company, I'm sure I can be the face and contribute to that vision and goal of his, and make a real life impact to our people.
And that, brings in a really good point when you mentioned about the rural electrification. I think many of us were brought up in that era. But now most of us are hearing the word, renewable energy. Most of us are hearing the word climate change. Even with the weather, we were talking about the weather before we started our live. Someone posted the photos of the weather that was happening in Lautoka, and they kept using the word climate change. So Michael, with your presence in Fiji, I think it's offering that level of education, and understanding for our people to really realize that there's a connection between this, the weather and what they're facing, but also now, bringing in solutions. Do you think MV Solar would kind of do those dual roles, the education side of things, making our people understand what's going on around them, but also providing some solution when it comes to power? Would you like to expand on that, Michael?
Yeah, Dr. T. That's a really, really important point, which a lot of people overlook. Education isn't just about a formal education sitting in a university or a school or a college. There's life education out there as well. I come from a teaching background, as I've already said. So I believe education is the key to growth. If we're looking at the solar industry, this is a brand new industry that's suddenly here worldwide. But what do people know about it? Very little. They search, even people in Australia, believe it or not, they search the internet, they're sitting on Google, they've got all of these different opinions from different people all around the world, what they Google from now. Most of these are from companies that are just trying to sell a product. So I'm not trying to sell a product, I'm trying to solve a problem, which is the biggest thing we look at. So even though we're MV Solar, we're not just focused on solar systems, and maybe for a future broadcast, we might be able to do something that we've actually got a new technology to be able to eliminate coastal erosion through a seawall program that I've been involved in. But I won't talk about that now, but I'm always looking out to try and solve and help problems. At the time when I came to Fiji, or before I came to Fiji, I was asked to go to various places. One of those places was Dubai. So if I was just looking to try and make a lot of money and build a big business, I would obviously go to places where the money is. But no, I came to Fiji because the people here are so friendly. They don't have much compared to what the rest of the world have, but they're happy in their own world. And I think I could really change people's lives by just opening their eyes to see what is available and what really is good and what is not so good and what's going to help them opposed to what's not going to help. That's my philosophy. So one of the things we've got, for example, we've got a seminar this very Friday down at the Nandi Sports Club, where we've invited everybody from the community, everybody out there in the business community, local community, anybody to come along and talk to me, learn about the product, have an example of what's there, and just a general education program. It's not there to try and sell our product, but it's there to try and educate the people as to what they should be doing.
Yes, Mr. Valentine. I really like the fact that you have a teaching background and an education background, and I think for many of us who are into the field of education, I think it comes out in everything that we do. Yeah, so you are there for the people, and I think that's really key. And thank you for choosing Fiji. There's so many countries in the Pacific you would have chosen, but here we are. Sharing this very important information. And speaking about your background, teaching at the TAFE, going back in the day in Meadowbank in Sydney, and bringing it forward to 2023, what training opportunities, maybe this can go as well with you, Mr. Vatu, would be available for young Fijians? For me, I would like to see the future of MV, solar, to contribute to our young people, choosing to work in this field where it comes to renewable energy and climate change and making a difference in their own community. What are your plans? We'll start with you, Mr. Valentine, and we'll go to Mr. Vatu as to how would you think applying this for your folks in Bua, for example?
Yes, thank you. There are several approaches we've taken. I've taken a lot of approaches over the years where solar is getting more regulated in other areas around the world, such as Australia, and there's various standards, there's accredited courses, there's equipment standards, there's a whole range of regulation around trying to get a quality product as well as trying to educate and train the industry. Although the community is still poorly educated, I must say. In Fiji, we don't have those standards. We have an electrical standard that through EFL that is maintained, but other than that, there is no standard for solar. And that disappoints me because people can put up a sign and say, I'm a solar expert, and nobody else knows. So how would they know if they're an expert or not? And a lot of people don't get the equipment and the installation and the information that they need. We're trying to do local seminars. That's one thing. But we've also made some connections with various universities in Fiji to support them in their training regimes. Support them in their applications to try and get funding to increase their courses. Nearly all of them have asked me to go and lecture for them, but I don't have time to actually lecture, but I'd rather try and build the industry that way. I've also had a number of talks pretty much with every government minister or in the previous government. I'm also trying to talk now to the new ministers that are in Parliament now and even up to the Prime Minister, because I believe what they need to do in Fiji is implement some standards. They need to implement standards of accreditation of equipment, second for the people, third for the installation. And I think all of those things are underpinned by education and community education. But a lot of it is just even how the government speaks, even how they put their ads on the radio and the TV, and how they're actually broadcasting this out through the schools and whatever programs are in place. Because what I found is also the government needs education too, because a lot of the programs they've put into place to try and obviously bring Fiji up and help with climate change, and some of the renewable programs they've put into place haven't always been as successful as hoped. And a lot of that is because the people that are assessing it and putting these programs into place are not really understanding the implications and the equipment they're looking at, or the qualifications of the people that are presenting it. So education starts from the top and the bottom, and hopefully somewhere in the middle they'll meet.
Absolutely.
Now, one other thing just on that, I wanted to mention that Petero is with our company, and I met him probably 2016 when we actually, he was at Wakai Island, and he was the financial controller there, and we met and presented him about a solar project. And he's always stayed in touch, and he's always supported us, and he's always wanted to know how we're traveling, wanted to help as much as he could, and eventually it's led to him being part of our team.
Wow.
And a very strong part of our team.
Sabi nakakalevo. Mr. Vatu, we really, even when I interviewed him the last time on, hearing about his journey, it's very inspiring. And I think we have a very good, team member who will do your company proud, but also connect to our people and, make a lot of the information that you want to share be reachable, to the community, maybe translating some words, to simple English maybe, or Fijian as well, and Hindi, because our Indian community too are out there who are needing, this kind of information too. So Mr. Vatu, what would be your vision about education in this field for our youths? For example, if you use the word for the education for Mbua, for example.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. T. Yeah, for education is a very important aspect in when we're talking to customers and also to relevant agency, and that is a gap that we understand that is currently here in Fiji in terms of solutions being set up. And then when it's come to basic maintenance, for example, if we're looking at a village setup, people don't know who to tend to or basic upkeeping of the solar system. We've been discussing it, is currently preliminary stage at the moment, where vision we're looking at, given the warehouse that we have here in Lautoka. If we do have village projects, I term them as a village solar wardens. So this basically village men and women can come and train in the warehouse for basic upkeeping of the solution and know what to do if there's a time to do cleanup and so forth, and also empower them. As we understand, like Michael has already mentioned, we've been talking to university, this university program running. We're looking at enhancing those programs, and also we make it more Fijian and localized material. And one thing is doing the theory in the classroom, and we can bring them in here to MV Solar to do the practical hours, and they can learn something and get that theory materialized, and they can be useful not only to Fiji, but as we know, the global shift now in labor mobility, and they can be also useful in the other parts of the world for doing installation or further skills in the renewable solar industry.
Yes, thank you for thinking about the future of Fiji, using the pathway of education through the university. I really appreciate that, and I think our audience as well responding positively to that. That you've got a business to run, which I think is really important. But then you also have the community outreach, but also thinking of the future. So thank you again, Mr. Valentine, for the vision to come to Fiji, do your setup, and also provide the service that is needed, but also the education aspect of that too. Vinaka Vakalevu. And I think the point that was mentioned about maintenance, and I think this is a big issue for many developing nations. Most of the time we get these equipments from Japan, from the US, you name it, from around the world, including Australia, New Zealand. We have a wonderful opening, everybody comes together, and then 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, something happened to the equipment or something happened to the building, and nobody does the maintenance. Yeah. So would that be something you'll include in your work to make sure that the locals are trained, Mr. Valentine, just to keep the momentum going in the field of maintenance?
Thank you. Maintenance is hugely important, and people underrate it because maintenance doesn't make very much money for companies, so they just don't do it. One thing, if you don't mind, I'll just take a little step back.
Sure.
In that it's when people purchase the equipment, they come with warranties, guarantees. Who's giving that guarantee is hugely important. If you're getting equipment from wherever around the world, China, for example, or Korea, or it might come with, let's say, an inverter might come with a 5-year warranty, or a solar panel might come with a 20-year warranty. But who gives you that warranty? That manufacturer in that other country. So let's say we have a solar panel that's got a 20 to 25-year warranty or a 10-year warranty, whatever it's got, and it fails. First off, how do you know it fails? Because you've got to have somebody to test it. Secondly, if it does fail, who are you going to go back to? Because most warranties are covered by a manufacturer. That manufacturer's in China. Their warranty policy will say you need to bring it back to our office so that we can test it and ensure that it's faulty or not. Secondly, that particular product has to be maintained on a regular basis. Now, if you haven't had maintenance, that warranty is void anyway. So that's one of the most important things that we did. For example, before I came to Fiji, we spent nearly 2 years looking at all the equipment that we currently used, but also equipment that would be best for the conditions in Fiji. And one thing you've got to remember, in Fiji, it's got great sun, which is fantastic for solar energy and solar radiation, but it also has all of these conditions that can really damage equipment. You have constant high temperature, you have constant high humidity, you have high salt levels, you have extreme moisture, and you have extreme weather events. Pretty much the only thing you don't have in Fiji is snow. And maybe that will come with climate change, we don't know. But all of these things will completely damage equipment. Even the excess solar radiation will break down components with UV. Now, one thing we did, I employed a researcher and scientist to go through all of the equipment that we were preparing to bring to Fiji to see if it was suitable for all the local conditions. And we selected this group of equipment. And that's the only equipment we bring in. Second to that, before I selected from that equipment list, I then spoke to every manufacturer, every distributor of that equipment and said, what are you going to do to support me here in Fiji? Because I need to support the people. And what they did was they've actually given me certificates. So their warranties are valid in Fiji, in our premises, right here in Lautoka, or in Server, or wherever else we're going to expand. So you don't have to take your equipment back to China, to Korea, to Japan, to wherever else. It's a one-stop shop. This is it here. So the equipment is built to last, and the equipment is also designed with that manufacturing support behind. Now, I don't think anybody else would do that. but I know what it's like because we were fairly poor when we grew up. We had nothing. And so we cherished everything we had. And so I want to know that the people here, which also struggle, make sure that when they do make an investment, it's going to be an investment that works. So hopefully that answers your question. And second to that, yes, we also do maintenance and we do repairs for systems as well.
Oh, binaka bakale, audience who are listening in today will be very happy, yeah, to hear that, because that is a really big issue, particularly for those of us in the islands. You know, we are so remote from many of those countries that manufacture these amazing, you know, solar energy machines and any other, you know, kind of things that are brought in. You know, if, for example, if it's made in Germany, of course, that's the other, you know, halfway around the world. And then you've got China, you've got Japan and the US. Still, it costs money to have that particular tool or machine repaired. So, Binaka for thinking about us in that way. Mr. Vatu, would you like to add any other more information to what Mr. Valantine just shared? And then I will share some of the pictures. So for those of you who are listening in Bula Binaka, thank you so much for joining in the Rangongo family. Bula Binaka, the Tamani family, Bakani family, Miss Benefield, Naita MLA. Thank you very much for joining in. We have our guests here from MV Solar who are here sharing with us some very important information. And I'm sure many of you will reach out to them in finding out more about what they offer that will benefit our villagers, but also they also have other businesses, clients, like hotels and other bigger establishments that they've worked with. Mr. Vatu.
Yeah, Dr. P. Yes, as Michael has rightly said, maintenance. I think now when we start looking at incoming customers, is something we want to build on a proposal if it's a rural setup. Where we're looking at that basic training that can be done, and hopefully once the discussion with the universities come to fruition, then we'll be able to enhance that further.
And for those of you who are listening in, welcome nina turanga maramay tauke sangol chungaya nina Visureti and nanonro may Talanoa Petero Vatu pataki Mr. Michael Valantine and a buku ni beka membaleta na sola bunga weekend na sema chumingo na buku ni be korokoro kebukau ni binakata na sola mela kimbia na nom ni be korokoro ningi bitar mai bero na turanga ero mai bulan tiku ni kua na MV Sola na to bola e tiku elo toka. Me bakasa tuku na ya Mr. Valantine ni bakami one stop shop na bika ke de tiku elo toka na tambana ni buli taki o katalanga kina na training na maintenance katodoko e tiku elo toka. Mr. Aquila, there's a question here about cost, but maybe do you want us to go through some of the images first that you've shared with us, gentlemen, and then we can go to cost and contact later on afterwards?
Yeah, I think that's probably wise.
Okay.
Because there's so many different, not just equipment, but there's so many different systems and people have different needs. So you've got people in the mainland, for example, that are connected with EFL that have a different need to somebody that's on an island that is quite remote. And you've got village as a whole compared to somebody just on their own. So that it's not just one cost, but we do have some examples that we can provide at the end. And obviously, people contact us, we'll give them more information.
Bikim din nataro chiko mai Mr. Aquilangio, may kasama madaltak may Mr. Valantine na kenistaw na bakataw and kauningan repo. So if it's a village project, na koro, and nandun balilay. If it's a hotel establishment, and nandun tayo balilay. So they will make sure that they fit into any of your needs. So they're gonna be very adaptable. I think that's a really important point that we want to share. So for those of you who are listening in, I have some pictures that I want to share with all of you. Mr. Vatu and Mr. Valantine sent me these photos which I think will be very useful for all of us to view some images of some of the okay. Let me go back. Oh yeah, resume. Okay, I think I'll have to go back. Shall I go back to the beginning? Yeah. Okay. All right. Mbula Vinak, everybody. Look at these beautiful pictures. See, we're learning so much. They're going to share some of the different parts of Fiji they've been to. I think this was the first. Oh, yeah, your family. Let's go first to your family. Mr. Valentine, share with us a little bit about your family and about your business. And I think, as I said before, the success of your work today reflects the support you have from your family. Over to you, sir.
Looking at, I might want to go to the first photo that's on the list there is the photograph of myself and my daughter. Don't know if you're actually sharing that at the moment.
Oh, is it not sharing? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not. Hold on. Let me reshare. Sorry. Okay.
There's always technical difficulties. That's why we're here to fix them.
Nanti sir. Mr. Valentine. Iya. Nimbula vinaka kerbi busoti o mistress bati biadal balay so nakaiton ako tingo. Okay, hopefully this is sharing. Hopefully. Okay.
And yo.
Eh?
All right.
All right.
A little bit embarrassing, and Petero sent that photo over, so thank you for putting me there. But look, I don't just install solar systems or look in area. I also drive rally cars in Australia, and that's my daughter, my oldest daughter, Erin, and that was in 2018 when we actually won the New South Wales State DRS Championship. Obviously very happy at that time. It also goes to how our business is as well. As a family, we're very close. I have my wife, Lois, and she's the general manager. My daughter Laura also looks after the maintenance aspects. And my son Tim is also in the installation aspect. So we are all part of the business and part of the growth, and we believe in what solar energy is. And that's my son, who's on the right-hand side there with the purple shirt on. And that's with a couple that are living completely off-grid. And it might look like a simple system in front of you there, but it is very, very powerful. Looking at that system, that's been powering their home non-stop for the last 6-7 years, and they hardly ever use a generator. And they've got everything going that you could imagine that they're utilising. So with that system there, and also with the battery bank, you might just see just to the left of it, but we'll have a look a little bit later. I'm sure there's more photos on that. I can explain a little bit of how it operates. I think the next photo there probably zooms in on the system. Oh no, this one here. We might come back to that if it doesn't, but this photograph here is actually at Coral View Island Resort in the Azores. That is the battery room. Now we took that that resort completely off-grid. They were running, I don't know, 30, 40 years on a diesel generator, on many, many diesel generators, because they don't last that long, as you know. And basically in October 2015, we took the whole island off grid, and it was running completely on solar generation with some generator backup. Wow. Now we installed that in October, and what do you think happened in February the following year? Cyclone Winston, the second largest cyclone in the history of the world, came through the Azores and other parts of Fiji. And as you know, and your listeners would know and viewers know, our system was still operating the very next day. There were solar systems on neighbouring resorts. All of them disappeared overnight. But ours is the only cyclone-proven system, I believe, in the world. As well as later on, we now have cyclone certification from a local engineering company on other systems that we've put into place. So the key is to design for the conditions that you're actually installing for. So they're lead acid gel batteries that have been installed there. There's 3 banks of 120 of them, providing all the power for the resort.
That's amazing. I really like the fact that, you're able to customize it, if that's the right word to say. Yeah, to customize it to suit the need of the client and to suit the environment. Yeah.
Exactly. But it all starts with having the right equipment and then putting the right balance into place against the load. Now, a lot of people think it's the equipment that's most important, but no. The actual most important thing that I spend the most time at is trying to understand the load. Now, it's not just how much energy people use per day, it's when they use that energy. So in other words, what's the maximum demand at different times? We have to have a system to be able to cope with that. So for example, if you want to put your washing machine on, you don't want to have to turn the refrigerator off. You want to be able to, like I say, I design systems the way my wife tells me. In other words, we live completely off-grid. We run a property and a farm. We run our office, our warehouse, our workshop, our home, all completely off-grid. And she was happy to go off-grid 20 odd years ago and said to me, as long as I can put things in and turn things on and I don't have to think about it. And that's how I want to design for people, so they don't have to think about it. It just works.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, when Mr. Vatu, what do you think about the customization of the solar products that you all have to suit our people? And we have some of our guests commenting about village projects and things that can suit our village. What do you think, Mr. Vatu? Would you like to share something about that on how it can, connect to our village level in Akor?
Iyo, Dr. T, for those of us that brought up in the village, basically generator is only running for 2 hours to 4 hours or 5 hours max. And it's all centralized in one area and get shared across our houses. So for us in customizing or doing a village setup, like Michael mentioned, he's here to solve problem. And we believe in the same concept. It is that we will be replacing generator into solar. And you will be having your solar 24/7, where the system can centralize it for you and then distribute to the individual houses, rather than looking at, given that us Itoke, we always live together as a community, instead of putting up in individual houses. We believe in centralizing how the initial thinking of the early days of the generators in the village rural setup. But it's just that instead of generating power in the night for those few hours, you'll have power available 24/7. And that's the capability and the experience behind NV Solar that we can offer for the PG market.
Yeah, I still have fond memories of generators. I remember in some of the village, I know they will say from 6 to 8 or from 6 to 10 p.m. That's when everybody do everything they need to squeeze into that 4-hour period or 2 hours if they're lucky. And then they get the warning that somebody's walking up to where the generator is to turn it off, right? And you see people running across from house to house or trying to finish whatever they're doing. So thank you so much, MV Solar. For those of you listening in, with all your memories of the generators, you can share them here too. But now you might say goodbye to generators, or you can use it as a backup. Yeah, you can still have a generator there, use it when it's needed. But the solar system that you have here, you can use it 24/7, as what Mr. Vatu has just shared. So we have some clients now waiting for you guys. So there's some people already messaging us. So you guys stay there because Mr. Michael and Mr. Vatu will share their details with you. Some people have been waiting to get their solar done and they don't know where to go. So this is it. So they're all listening. So would you like to share about this? Yeah.
So this is also at Coral View, and that's where we mounted some of the panels that you can see from here on the staff quarters, and also the panels that have been ground mounted. You might just see under there some of the actual footings and framework that's been put together. it's been designed to withstand the local wind conditions. We could have done it a lot cheaper. We could have done it with cheaper framing. We could have done it using timber. We could have used a lot of other different products. Well, if we did, that system would not be here today. But because we designed it the way it was, and we used the local people to help us to actually design it, not to design, but to actually build and install it for us, we were training the local staff on the island and also our local staff here in Fiji to make it work. One of the things about it is it actually becomes a community project. And because we're actually involving the staff and the community into building this, hopefully they'll look after it a little bit better as well.
For them to look after that. So for those of you who are watching, this is in the Assawas, the Coral View Resort, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Coral View Resort. Okay, so now we know that they have different clients. So you have the resorts, and then they also have services for the Vekorokoro, for our villages. So for those of you who are logging in, who are looking at having solar in your village or even in your homes, for those of you who are living off the grid, please make sure you contact MV Solar. After this, we will share their contact details to you all. Okay, so next one. So this is the more, the detail of the battery you were talking about, Mr. Michael.
Yeah, so one of the things I think I need to mention as well is that a lot of programs, whether the government's put out or whether there's been other grant programs put into place, have tried to, give solar and rural electrification. But most of the packages that have been given out have been very small, 1 or 2 panels, which is just enough, and a little inverter, just enough to run some lights and maybe one power point where you can charge your phone and something else. I believe people need more than that. So rather than, and I'm just on the back of what Petero said before, is rather than give those small little systems to people which don't know how to maintain them, probably use too much of them and they fail, is to probably have more a centralized system, because people in Fiji live in villages. They live together. So let's build a system together, and that way it becomes more robust. We then have expertise to look after it, and the system will continue to operate and work. That's what I believe will work better. This particular photo you're looking at now is a 3-phase system. The previous one at Coral View was also 3-phase. But there's a difference with this one, is that there's those black boxes to the left. This is using a different battery technology. This is actually using now a lithium iron phosphate battery technology. It's a newer technology. It has its better purpose, especially if the system is under design. It's the same technology of chemistry of battery as what you have in your phone, in your battery power tools. So that battery technology is great, but it loves to be cycled. So when you're designing a completely off-grid system, for example, you really want to have enough storage so that you don't run out just on the night. You want to have 3 to 5 days of storage in there. So if it is cloudy and rainy, the whole system doesn't shut down. And then you want that system to be automated so it can automatically turn on the generator itself and not rely on somebody else. That way, the system self-manages everything and becomes reliable, and the batteries never get to a point of being so low. If we're worried about cost and the system is smaller, where we don't have that much storage, or it's a system that is connected to the EFL grid network, what we can do is install a smaller battery system using lithium and make it even a hybrid system where those batteries are being cycled heavily every day. Now, lithium loves to be cycled, so that works really well. A lead-based battery doesn't. So we wouldn't use a lead-based battery in that scenario. That's where we would use a lithium battery. And also the warranties and things are a little bit different. We can get into the technicalities, but I don't want to, obviously get to that point, which might be a little bit out of everybody's understanding. I can get too technical sometimes, but I just wanted to show you some examples of technology that's coming through.
For those of you who are watching, we have a few families connecting in from New Zealand, Rotorua, Hamilton, and they are planning to, I think they've got projects in Fiji, and this conversation is really relevant for them. So thank you for those of you connecting in from New Zealand. We have this company based in Lautoka. So it's easily accessible for those of us with our family back home. Yeah, listen in because we have a lot of things to learn from both of them, and they can be able to offer a lot of these needs that we that we need in the villages, and also some of you who have businesses as well. Okay, so here we are. Would you like to share about this too? This is great. I love this picture, Mr. Michael and Mr. Vatu, Balatan, using our local, local skilled workers to help you. Share us more about this. Share to us more.
Yeah, well, this is the latest technology in microinverters, and yeah, we are training local Fijian staff. And in fact, what I do in our business is we encourage our Fijian staff to also work in Australia, to do periods in Australia with our Australian team, and we encourage our Australian team to also come to Fiji to work with our Fijian team. So we want to operate MV Solar Fiji the same way we do MV Solar Australia. This particular installation was 174 kilowatts at the airport, and it's the first airport in the Pacific that has actually got solar panels on it. It's done at the air terminal services, and what we're installing is the latest model microinverter technology. So this is connected to EFL. This is connected to the grid network. It's one of the first installations that have been doing so. If you have a look closely, you can see there's those little devices, and the next picture might show it a bit better. That you can see the solar panels on there. So that's the devices. That's an Enphase microinverter.
Wow.
You can see there's a cable that runs to that black cable running along the rail.
Yeah.
That is the AC, your AC voltage that you're going to be using. If you have a quick look next to the staff member there, you can see there's two little wires coming out the other end. Now a little bit to the right, keep going to the right. Yes, those things there, they connect directly to the solar panel.
Wow.
And basically, this is also the safest system in the world. Now, we only have an open circuit voltage of about 40 volts from the solar panel, and the next thing it goes to AC. So as soon as it is turned off and the system is not operating, it isolates every one of those microinverters. The other thing is those microinverters are only converting the energy of one solar panel. So the heat generated is very small, as opposed to a string system that might convert the whole of the system of DC voltage in one go. The beauty about this is it will maximize the power of every solar panel, giving the maximum performance of that system. In a string system, which 90% of systems in the whole world use, all the solar panels are connected in a string to get the voltage up to about 1,000 volts. And if one of those panels are underperforming or not performing or a little bit dirtier than the others, it will only perform as well as the weakest panel. Whereas in this system you're looking at here, every panel will be maximized because that inverter is maximizing that energy of that panel. It is the electronics in that microinverter is very sophisticated, but it's also sealed and epoxied. So there's no moisture that can get in there. There's no fans. It will actually work underwater. Mind you, we don't want the building to go underwater, but in torrential rain, in cyclones, it's not going to affect this system whatsoever. So this is why I brought this to Fiji. And the warranties for that inverter, the warranties for the solar panels are here in Fiji, nowhere else. One other thing is we can monitor this system right down to every solar panel. We're not just looking at the whole system. I can actually fault find this and rectify this system anywhere in the world, getting onto my monitoring program. And in fact, if that system is operating out of character, like we set the limits within the program, and if the voltage is too high or low or something's not working, the system will actually send us an email. So we can then individually fault find and have a look at it. So as well as the latest technology, it's also the most reliable technology. It's also going to provide the most energy for the same size of solar panel and the same size of system. And this is what we're trying to bring to Fiji, not having Fiji being, and I'm sorry to say, I feel that Fiji at times is the leftover in the world. They get all the leftover products around the rest of the world. well, rather than Fiji having the leftover products, this time I want Fiji to be the example and the leader in the world, and using the latest technology and the worst of the environmental conditions to demonstrate how the world should be, not just how Fiji should be.
Absolutely. I'm glad in the previous discussion you were mentioning about the EFL, and one of the questions that was coming through was, how do you work with EFL in your work? So it seems like they are aware of your work and you of them, right?
Yes. Yes, thank you. A good question. And like in Australia, obviously we work with the local authorities there and it's very well structured. Here in VG, it's just starting. We've had a number of meetings over many years with EFL and formerly FEA and previous different name changes and construction change, but this is fully approved by EFL as well. Now, EFL have, as you know, a problem keeping up with the local load that is on the network already. There is already outages at times because of excessive load where they have to drop off the loads. And I think everybody's aware that there'll be 2 hours out here, there'll be 4 hours out there. There might even be, especially in bad weather, there could be a couple of weeks where you don't have EFL power. This is helping to support their network because it's actually taking the load of ATS, or at least partial load from ATS, off their network. So they don't have to provide that power during the day. It's a perfect grid-connected system for businesses because they operate mainly during the day. This system is basically a day system. It's not going to provide any power at night. There's no batteries, but it's going to provide power during the day where they need it the most. Now, if those microinverters and that whole system array, for example, provides more power than what they're using, that excess power can also go back to EFL to be shared and used at the property next door or down the road, and basically become part of the EFL network to support the network. So instead of being, I believe, in competition with EFL, I believe we need to work in partnership with EFL, which will actually support their services. Which means if we're supporting part of the load, they then don't have to spend all that money building and maintaining and upgrading that infrastructure. They can better service the infrastructure that they've currently got and work with what's called a distributed energy platform, where you're not just going from generating power at a power station, whether it be a hydro power station or a diesel plant or whatever, but you've then got businesses and other people scattered around the load area also injecting power into the system.
Wow.
So it is very important that we work together.
And that's really, so to those of you asking the questions, Safaira, and those of you connecting in from New Zealand, that's really good to hear. There was a question that was coming through. So maybe after this interview, Mr. Vatu and Mr. Michael, you might go through the chat and answer some of the questions that are coming through from those who are listening. So it's really great that they're asking about that, and also the issue about outages. So please, to our listeners, don't get angry with EFL. Most of the time there's complaints on social media. Now you have to understand, with the population increasing, there's a huge demand, right, on power. And so there's limited power that are coming through the hydro system. And so with the solar, Mr. Vatu, do you think this can be a good solution for our people, Mr. Vatu? Na kena kau mena libu-libang na solar, we nanonda we korokoro, kena we taun?
Iyo, Dr. T, isindo talen na ulumba laban bimbi ni kaya ko ni tiga na sa savara, si tiga may kandamu, si na tulau, si begitu may banolebu. Ko santo watokati ko ni dil na singa na sola san. Kendo san reminder na singa bu santo watokati ko may sola san. So na mo na kami binga na kena utakina buli na kena kilawer na nonda na kena bangat takina solar system ko nandi karon ni taranto na balam na kena dili.
So this is a huge learning curve for our listeners. For maybe a couple of months ago or maybe late last year, there was a discussion about the frequent power outages. And there was a lot of frustrations, from the community, and most of them went on social media. And so people were, coming up with solutions. And if I can just share my story, Mr. Michael, Mr. Vatu also know that I have a farm in Namosi province. And so because we are off the grid, we decided to have 3 solar panels already in our home in Namosi. So it was a big educational opportunity for the locals to find out how we came up with the solar system in our home as an option. So for me, when Mr. Vatu approached me for this Talanoa, I was excited because I was like championing, solar to our people when they were complaining on social media. I was like, hey, have you thought about, saving up some money? It may be expensive in the beginning, but in the long run, it will help you. So that could be a good advice, Mr. Vatu, to our community. Mersa Mama Roisen Saranga, maybe bukin na tabi kor-kor ke na tabi bale-bale. Gueka, Petero?
Iyo na Dr. T. Au mambuta na kambimbi saranga erota lang ni lakasona tubo-tubo binak kinamatin tu nanunggu wana nanungayo nunggu bitang atal tsunga wat kirto na Department of Energy to nakawasit sa gobyerno en namong mawala nga kaya makaila ko man na so nakamban ni Sol na duro na nalako na rural electrification program kaya makay tik-tak wala nga na box. Do tik-tak na box na kanalita ka na solar system. Iyo ernavade una leweni bono na bi korkoro. Iyo ernasinivade watodo kaya makay nalak nga ni ruto lembat lak nga main do na dangi lamba. Pada na peno se do na kaya do na system marsin kila na leni bono ibina bono meramukin na. Kung na bikin talaga na nonda sa kandi mi mendatige mo mama relaw and then gero di bitan lo bat kinamatin tu tapi wikito do na was ni sedewo na dabar ni ka wikito na matin tu kito binakat na company ko bimida ka nito sol ni tukor beto na kuno kutuntun ko na bimbi ni Raven na mendaran dikeva na kami zaka makanya tukun tiba Michael ni ekomay isengal ekomay na ken sa buliliwati na solar system ko na may rawatan ng rakining bulan sa tapo yun kanda na Pasifika.
Yan na Sara.
Kaya sa valid dita ko to na Coral View Resort ni rawan ni didibaki ko na ron tara ko na dangilambo Winston na ron dultin ka no. Kaya do na volto tuliw na anong dabiti.
Yan na Sara nga. Wow. Nakapakaliw for considering the weather, the humidity, all those kind of climatic conditions for Fiji, and bringing in this high quality materials as we're looking at one right now. Michael, would you like to share with our audience what we're looking at here?
Yes, Tanaka. Looking at a battery back, believe it or not, latest model in lead technology. So a lot of people are familiar with lead acid batteries, where they've got to top them up with water and they emitting hydrogen and sulfur and they corrode. Then the battery technology in lead went to a AGM battery, absorption glass mat, to then what's called a gel battery, which is what we were looking at in the previous photos that we saw at Coral View. Now we're looking at the latest model in lead nanocarbon technology in these batteries. They're actually mounted, as you can see, horizontally, not vertically. They're mounted in a particular rack. They have a lot deeper cycling capacity and a lot better cycle rate. So they will last longer, operate better, and operate in a wider range of conditions, and also look really nice and neat and be compact. This particular system is a 48-volt system. Each one of those batteries is 2 volts each. And that system is powering that house that we looked at earlier, that couple was standing next to my son. So this is coupled with that system. So that system together would be a fantastic system for a house or even a very small village. But we can expand on this system as well. One thing I always like to do is that it's not just here's the system. If you want something bigger or it's too small, take that away and put another one in. What I like to do is be able to make something that's versatile and expandable, because people's needs grow. Even though I might sit with them and work out their loads and what they want to do, what are you going to do in 2 years' time? What are you going to do in 5 years' time? All of these sorts of things. I think situations change. I mean, electric vehicles, for example, are coming into Fiji as they are coming into the rest of the world. But how are we going to cope with that? Who has even thought about the extra electrical energy there needs to drive electric vehicles? One of the research that's been done is that the Fiji electrical network has to at least increase by 50% to cope with the demand of electric vehicles coming in the next 10 to 15 years. How are they going to do that when they're having so much trouble trying to cope with the current level of load and investment? So I don't know how that's going to happen, but maybe individually we can make it happen. One of the things we're doing in Australia, and a lot of people are actually disconnecting from the grid network. I've actually done off-grid systems in the centre of Sydney, believe it or not, in a terrace house. Okay. Not that I think it's worthwhile doing that because the grid network is very reliable, but people are so fed up with electricity companies that they just want to disconnect and be completely independent. We can do whatever people want to do, but beware that if you want a system that's capable of doing those things and capable of giving you more and more and more energy, obviously the bigger the system, the bigger the cost. Yeah. But once the cost is paid, this is the other thing to remember, it's all paid up front. So once it's paid, then there is no ongoing cost or very minimal ongoing cost until at the time that we might need to upgrade the batteries or later down the track. So while it might look expensive initially, and whether it's a large system, a small system, instead of eating away at your money every month like EFL does, you basically pay it and then your cost is then covered for that period of time by free energy from then on.
So true. Mr. Michael, for those of you who are listening in, that's a really good point. As Mr. Michael just mentioned, that you just pay the lump sum payment in the beginning, and then you relax for a very long time, comparing it to now, where you pay your bill in a monthly cycle. But now you just pay that upfront cost. It may sound big. I think for the one we did was like, I think 13,000, or I think another one was 8,000. So for when we were sharing our solar journey, a lot of our colleagues were calling us, how did you get your, solar installed? Who did it? How did you find out which company was the best? And all those kind of questions. So I think one key point I want to share too for our audience, and also from you, Michael and Petero, is for our audience to do their research. Read up about solar, do some search online or talk to people. But here we're so blessed; they're right here. And Michael and Petero, the people, the face of the company, they're right here. And so you're welcome to visit them in Lautoka. So many of our people here are asking for your numbers already. So hold your horse. We're getting there. But we're just so happy, Michael and Petero, that you are here today, to share this story with us. I think this is our second last photo, Michael.
I won't go into too much detail here, but just to explain why I design the way I design. That this is the system that I was talking about, connected to those batteries we've just seen. If you look at where your cursor is at the moment, that is what they call a grid connected type inverter. It is connected to a number of solar panels on the roof, and this system is actually under somebody's house. So it is generating AC electricity directly from the solar panels during the daytime, and it is being fed to the fridge and all the loads that are on during the day. Now, the box to the left of it, that grey box, is a Selectronic inverter charger. Now, Selectronic is manufactured in Victoria, in Australia. It is one of the oldest inverter manufacturers in the world, and they only make off-grid inverter chargers. So they're specialised, and honestly the best inverter charger in the world. Now, keeping in mind that box on the right, you've got your cursor at, is generating electricity. It's generating electricity, and that excess electricity, if we're not using it, will go through the charger section in the grey box, the SP Pro, and charge the battery system. Now, all the brains of the system and how it's controlled is done in that grey box, that one in the middle. Just to the left of that grey box, you'll also notice a little silver box. That is a regulator, and that is connected to the left a little bit more. That's it. Not that one, that's it. That one is connected to a different set of solar panels. It's a regulator, and it's DC coming in from the solar panels, DC straight out to the batteries. So even if the rest of the system, because the batteries have got low, is not operating, or it's turned off because the batteries are low, when the sun comes up the next day, that will charge the batteries directly. So that makes it more efficient because you're not converting from DC to AC, then back to DC for charging. And so obviously at night, the energy from the batteries will come through the inverter section of that grey box in the middle and give you power during the night. There is one little white box between those two boxes to the right. That one there, that is a Select Live unit. What that does is connect up the inverter charger so that we can connect it to your modem and connect it to the internet. And now I can get that online and look at that system anywhere in the world. You can look at it on your phone through an app. Customer can look at it on their computer. You will know what charge is left in the system. You'll know how it operates, and it will send you warnings if there's ever an issue. Like I said, even though the display looks fairly simple, if you have a look up the top there, it's probably a little bit hard to see, but there's a series of green LEDs. Now, the height of those LEDs will show you the level of the battery charge. Simple as that. This system works really reliable, really dependent, and it also will completely control an auto start generator. So it doesn't matter what the weather conditions are, it will operate. The beauty is when it brings in the generator, so let's say the system's getting a bit lower and it brings in the generator then takes over the load, and you won't see any flickering of lights. There won't be suddenly it turns off and turns on and you have to do anything. This is all done automatically, and the generator takes over the load of the house. Now, what I always say is we have a bigger generator than what you actually need for the house, because the extra capacity in the generator will then also charge the batteries back up at the same time. So even if it's still raining and cloudy, the generator is not running all the time. It's still charging the system back up to the point where it will turn the generator back off. So, like I said before, I want to make something even more reliable than the grid network, and something that you control, that everybody can be independent. Now, a system like this can work for a house, it can work for a village, we can expand it to work for a larger village, all using the same principles.
Michael, for explaining that. So for those of you who are listening in, we come in about wrong to my na we ka bak madal ta Michael and baka tau searching nga na nomuningangan. Gwa na rukuni vale rani baka libu taka do na vale tukun chungo Michael rani tiko nangangan ke do na koro uni binakata mena baka libu taki ni bitartara ni bira ano to bol tiko lotok. Petero dala kau bia o tomana na vital no tale sa mo o Michael tiso sa tunggal sa nga program na naman raw business melotok. I think that's it, yeah.
Iyo benar ka Dr. T. Baka nga di tartal tigo Michael na nito kampanye me buke saranga na nomuningangan. Itu sini kampanye soal me bulta ngabi kundo na panel battery wata kenaka. Itu na ray no ngangandre ni ando dua ngangandre be korkor. Se ngangandre no business tikuke begitu. Ya nakanga italiki na niyo na warranty talaga itu begitu. Warranty ni solar panel kena warranty ni battery. Na sangat tal niya na wawati kumeda ni kau nemu panel se nemu battery se inverter i China se Australia na daw may and ito na kinakanda na kanalangan mo solar system ito na visot na nga nakinawarin di kilutok.
To talk about Kaoti. So in terms of requests from our potential clients that are listening in here, what's the best way to reach you both, Michael and Petero?
Thank you. For those of us in Fiji, can reach out to MV Solar Fiji Facebook page. And also on my mobile 679 9926754.
9926
754.
754. Okay, so that's to Petero, eh? Okay.
And we also have an Australian Facebook page, but we also have a website that covers both Australia and Fiji.
Oh,
So if you just Google MV Solar, and whether it be Australia or Fiji to come up,
okay,
we can support you when we can help you in either location.
Oh, Vinaka, there's a gentleman who also is logging in from Australia. He was wanting to know your contact in Australia. So go to the website. So for those of you listening in, go to the website. So just type in MV Solar. So there will be Australia, MV Solar Australia, and MV Solar Fiji. So all their contacts are there. So to talk about Kaote, and you also on social media, as Mr. Petero has already mentioned, I've typed in your number and also the Facebook page. Please like the page. Make sure you follow the page, and all the questions that you're asking here, they will answer it for you. Right? And which part of Lautoka is where are you based, Michael, in Lautoka?
We're near Namoli village.
Oh, okay.
We have quite a big building.
Yeah, we are located at Lot 13 Bowalu Street. It's an industrial area and just close by to Namoli village, Dr. T.
Oh, so Lot 13 Bowalu, eh?
Hmm.
Bowalu, is it Bowalu Street?
Bowalu Street,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Bowalu Street. Lautoka. So those of you listening from Namoli, it's not far away from your home. Yeah, you can look out from your window and you can see MV Solar.
I can probably wave to them from here. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow, for those of you listening from Namoli, make some nice bambakau, some nice roti, and walk across to Michael and Petero for morning tea.
Sounds lovely.
That sounds lovely. See, and I'm sure many of you will have lots of questions, and they will answer them for you. So that's the address in Lautoka, Lot 13 Bowalu Street, Lautoka. You can reach them on their Facebook page, MV Solar Fiji or MV Solar Australia, and their website too. And Mr. Petero has graciously given his mobile number. Yeah, so 992-6754. Donya?
Donya, Dr. T.
Okay, 992-6754. So make sure you don't call at 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to let Petero sleep and rest, but try and call him in the morning, and he will happily pick up his phone to answer all your questions. Wow. Man, Michael, Petero. I learned so much today. I was taking notes as you were talking. So I'm one of your students. So I'll be an expert of solar projects like this in the future. So before we complete our Talanoa today, I'll pass it over to you, Michael, to say any other key points that you may have not shared or you want to remind our listeners, and then I will ask Petero to close our session today. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Vanaka. One of the things that we're doing is also, I did mention, I may have mentioned earlier, I can't remember, that we're actually running a seminar today at the Nandi Sports Club.
Right.
And that's, sorry, not today, on Friday at 7 p.m. Now, everybody is welcome, whether they're a business member, whether they're a member of the community, everybody is welcome there at 7 o'clock. There will be some refreshments and some drinks there as well, but we'll be running through and be able to see some of the product and be able to talk to people and talk to myself and Petero and the rest of the team. So that'll be on this Friday at the Nandi Sports Club. Just on that as well, Petero and I quickly put together some packages that could really benefit people. especially people that are currently connected with EFL. And when we looked at what ATS have as far as microinverters and panels, we put together quick packages of 2 panels, 2 microinverters, or a 4 panel, 4 microinverters, or 8 panel, 8 microinverter system. And we put in a special price just for viewers of your program. Right? So if people come in and they contact us very soon and they tell us that they've seen your program, we will give them that special price. When we look at it like the 2 panel program, mind you, we all have to pay now 15% VAT, which is a problem, but the price of the system is $4,888 plus a VAT of 15% gives you $5,621. We've reduced that for this program down to $4,488 plus 15% VAT, giving you $5,161.20. Now, that is for a 2 panel system that will start to reduce your EFL bill, which you can build on easily. Now, one of the things with this is that this system can be put in easily and we can actually start it straight away. We have the equipment here in stock in Lautoka. The 4 panel system is 8,511 down to 7,830. With VAT comes up to $9,000. So VAT takes a big slice out of that. An 8 panel system we've got as 14,866. It is now dropped from your program to 13,677. We're not trying to make anything out of this. We're just trying to get this message out there so that people can put technology in. But that brings it with VAT 729. Now, I know these sorts of systems also qualify under the government programs, and it allows you to even use your FNPF funds. So people that may not have those ready funds now to be able to spend this money might have access in those accounts that you can put in here and then pay your FNPF back by the savings that you make.
Wow, to talk about it, that's a wonderful investment. I always like to use that word, because sometimes, when, especially with our Fijian colleagues or family who are listening in, when we hear, thousands of dollars here, thousands of dollars there, this is an investment to you and your family. You will save for years to come in front of you. So just, make that first payment, and FNPF is there to help. Wow. They've got 2 panels options, 4 panels, and 8 that you are offering. So care saranga bikim ni na barong chumay kota na lomo sa libutan nga bikin nando complain na social media sa mus na libu-libi ke lele na libu-libi kengo. Make sure sa alak saranga na nomunisaw ni masu na sa binakat saranga mini medaka na nomunisol. To talk about it. Thank you, Michael. See, there's some special. Make sure you mention Talanoa with Dr. T when you go and see them tomorrow, and you'll get a discount. Say, well, Michael? Yeah?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And if people want a bigger system than that, we can work out a special price for that too.
Wow, right? Binakabakali. Bikim ni na barong tikumay, kaya bakaw ni binakatin doa ko kalilibudake, ni ngola nga biraw Lautoka, bitartarayan. Bikim doon Chukuminisilandi. Those of you in New Zealand, go online and connect with both of them, with Michael and Petero, via either social media or through their website. To talk about it. Dono Matewai Bakarao, yes, they install in the islands. Yes. So the one was asking about it. Yes, they do. So they were showing pictures in their Sao. So if they can do your Sao, they can do anywhere. Sevada Petero? They can go to all the islands. In Lao, if any Laoans listening in, they'll come to Lao. Right? For those of you from Kandavu, put your hand up. I'm from Kandavu. They'll come to Kandavu. Petero, over to you, sir. Dotal na kani binakata mo sa birabang tingmay. Sa lelib sar sara pitar-tar tingmengo.
Oy, binakbaliw Dr. T. Binakbaliw talom ni wata-wata binakanggo. Wakang bimbi na kena misul to kan nangaw na bi kiraw ki Michael mana Elvi Sola. Satu na banu ni bi Nonda nadangin ni Visa Ubungo, ndaba kasama taktigo na EFL, kemakanda complain. Nasingando na naman na complain. Na nalingot yung na kanambukan na liwa-liwa. Nasininduan na may EFL, may besotaka non da appliances kemakay la. May kimunin na ito na bitaw da ko ni may korkor. Nidilan doon na singa na matakawong. Ano matiko na singa ngor na singa ni Sola. Sakyan na nga naman daw Visaw na solar system. Visaw na solar system, na solar system tiko na kena warranty, tiko sarang ibit. Sa kanya nga na laptali China, si Germany, si Australia, si New Zealand, tiko sarang ang lotok. Nomini wata-wata binakang gua doon na kanibuli binaka ve kena ve nonda. Satu tertungan na babaraw ni kampanye ni Envisola na kaya bangkang kadot taki na huli membaleta na so sando lebar bita tarmay begitu Fernanda do na vera kitu sini kampanye ni may silebe kimuni membaleta na muni Vina si itu the kawana system membaleta sarangan muni ngangane kaya bakani binakata nomni vale me lako na fridge, lako na air ni rangi, lako na air condition. En visor na ni bazungan na lomni. Sa tingwa na manunui, ninda na dingin baya lo matua. Na nonda dingian system na yang abikianda en divin balau. Pamimbin na investment le bukan ya wartati ko. Investment le we tiku loma. Iyo kene bandi ni warranty gitu sila tu na sola pena harus gali manambay wata ki na sawandi ni takma sawa ke saroni mbula mana ti si Winston yesa na ni to structure ngani tasarga non David kena paswi tawon sa baba ni binaktal ba beki muni na wata binakang ko na kena Talanoa with Dr. T na sul na ngona VMV sola ena bukutungan ni biba ramatag Vera non da iviti, ver talaga nawakan dito may balang. Pambutan do talaga na den reliver do stava nawakan do may balang ver na nonda. Na ken na bangat tay kinakambani, merakawa ko lang may mikilati may bangat tay wabinaka na biwator da tay kinan di bubalik sa nanduwi ko. Satu waro na envisola, menababutukan tak na tatanda. Tama na may total tuna was di babinaka. Nanam ni wata-wata binango, babina tal tunga ver na non tera baro tal tunga mai na stream YouTube channel wat kina Facebook live ito na sarvali.
Sebenar valib sar Petero. Michael, there's a request here from sister in Dubai. She's building her house in Fiji sometime in the future, but she's saying, can her discount from tonight apply for her future home? I already said yes on your behalf, Michael.
I think I can arrange something, but she needs to contact us soon.
Right, with Naka. So for sister in Dubai,
don't wait for 2 years to do it now.
Do it now. So make sure you send Michael and Petero an email straight away, introduce yourself, and when you visit Fiji again at the end of the year, visit their warehouse and their office in Lautoka. So they right downtown, close to Namoli village, sa Totoka Sarangay. So very accessible to most of us who know Lautoka very well. Any last comments, Michael?
Look, I'd just like to really thank you. We feel very privileged that we're part of your program, Dr. T. And we're also grateful to the community that you've built up and grateful that we could actually express some of our thoughts, ideas, but also present some education to people. And hopefully everybody's gained from that. But I feel privileged that people have taken that in and that we've taken up your time. And we're really excited about the programs ahead. One thing we do have is we're always looking for solutions. So at the moment, energy is a really big problem. One of the other things we talked about is climate change is happening. We already know that coastal erosion and the ingress of the sea is happening now. There is products we're looking at that we do have and we've got connections with that will eliminate coastal erosion. Now, that's a big statement. That's not for tonight, but there's something maybe we can explore at a later time.
Dono Vinaka, absolutely,
Vaka
Michael.
Levin.
You're most welcome. Yes, I'll be happy, down the line when you have some time from your busy schedules as well. Just message me, Petero, and then we can organize another Talanoa session on some of those solution-driven sharing that you want to share with our people. On behalf of all our listeners, we want to say Vinaka Bakalevu to both of you for being here tonight. And I'm sure your emails in your inbox and your phone, Petero, will start ringing after this. We have some viewers from Australia and New Zealand who will be getting in touch, who are very interested to be part of your journey and making a difference in Fiji. Vinaka Bakalevu.
Vaka Levin.
Nakatulpati.
Tandon. Vinaka Rumat Takumanda.
Bye.
Naka, take care. Naka.
Bye-bye.
Mwade. Yes, thank you so much. For those of you listening in, Nanondo Hulangi or Michael, sa Marta Kapakalibu na nona sema meniko, bakatalangakin na Nanondo Hulangi o Petero, Roro na biwakan go Michael Valentine, kwa turangan ni Australia, and Petero Vatu. Oh, before you finish, Michael, I was going to ask you one very last question. I know, have you been following the rugby in France?
I haven't been, but I was waiting for one of these questions. I believe Australia hasn't been doing very well, but Fiji has. And so I'm currently in Fiji, so I'm 100% behind Fiji.
Yay!
I'm Fijian tonight. Everybody, and more there.
Naka, what Petero, Michael?
Yeah, Malpatati. Naka.
Yeah. So for those of you who are wondering which team Mr. Michael supports, you heard from him. He supports Fiji. So care for everybody. Go and visit them in their warehouse in Lautoka, and really thanking both of them, Mr. Valentine and Mr. Vatu, for being here tonight. Ako maden bikim dito doksar, pinakabakalevo na sa mamay ni Mwada Takamata. Naka.
Naka.
Bye. Mwade.
Mother.